Hi everyone and welcome back. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you all of the books that I read in September. Now I did have it started off good and ended up ending really bad because I've had more 1-star books in a month than I've had ever. Let's just say that. So let's just get right into the video. So the first book I read was Heartbones by Colin Hoover. I rated this 3.75 stars. And I read this really fast, let's just say that. And I have mixed feelings about this. It was a 3.75 star because it is like more YA. It's more on the YA side. There was a few bits that I did enjoy and where I was addicted. I just wanted to keep reading, but there was times in the story where I got a bit bored or the main female character just annoyed me a little bit and I just couldn't stand her. But then again, I'd enjoy other bits and stuff. So I do have mixed feelings about this. Would I recommend it? Yes, I would. That is why it is a 3.75 star. I would recommend this if you want something fast-paced, quick, easy, just a good time. Then I read Never Never by Colin Hoover and Taryn Fisher. So this book I rated 3 stars. It's one of those things where it was definitely different from what I normally read. I was confused half of the time, if I'm being completely honest. The only thing that kept me reading was I wanted to know how it ended. I wanted to know what happened. But there was most points where I was just bored and I just wanted to get the book over with. Again, this is another one that I did read in one sitting. So it is addicting, and again, I would recommend it. But to be completely honest, you are confused most of the time. I finished this book still confused. I honestly still don't understand the concept of it or what really happened. I have kind of an idea, but I was left confused and with questions still, especially with how it ended. So yeah, just if you're going to read this, expect to be left confused and maybe wanting more answers. Next, I read Too Late by Colin Hoover. I rated this 2 stars. If I'm going to be completely honest, this was not for me. Now I knew this was one of Colin Hoover's dark romances, and I think the only dark romance. And normally I don't mind dark romance. There's some dark romance I enjoy. This was not one of them at all. I did not like one of the main guys. I don't even remember his name. Asa, that's it. I absolutely despise Asa. This book makes me angry. It made me angry. I did not enjoy my read for the pure fact of I was annoyed half of the time. I was disgusted half of the time. The way he treated Sloane, I think her name was. Yeah. I just couldn't stand it. It's 2 stars though for the pure fact of when it came to Sloane and the other one. What's his name? Carter. That's it. That was when it became bearable to read. But anything to do with Asa, even being in Asa's point of view, I just couldn't stand it. Then I read Love Her, Lose Her by Tessa Bailey. I rated this one 3 stars. This is one that I enjoyed reading while I read it, but it isn't really memorable, if that makes sense, but I would recommend it. It was an interesting, it was a good read. Do I remember everything that happened in it? No. So this is about a married couple who's having marriage troubles. They don't really talk to each other much anymore or anything, but then female main character Rosie tells her husband Dominique that she wants to do therapy their marriage, and normally it's something that he wouldn't agree with, but he does, and that kind of shocks her. So they end up going to a marriage boot camp, I think it was called. Yeah. And you see them basically trying to repair their marriage and actually fight for their marriage, because they both was kind of just giving up. They didn't really do much about it, but then she felt like she missed being loved. She was just going to basically leave, but they wanted to fight for the marriage, if that makes sense. So that is basically what you're reading about. Then I read Tours of Engagement by Tessa Bailey. I also rated this one 3 stars. Again, like the other one, I liked it when I read it. It isn't very memorable, but I would still recommend. It isn't going to be a book that I think of, if that makes sense. So if I remember correctly, this one is about Bethany and Wes, and they are enemies, but they have to build something. Oh, that's it. Flip buildings and stuff, and she's in competition with her brother or something like that. So it's something along those lines, if I remember correctly. I don't really remember much about it, but I know that when I did read it, I did enjoy it. After that, I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This is the book that is going around everywhere at the moment, and I completely understand why. I rated this 4.25 stars because I think at some points I was a bit confused about like the world and what was specifically happening, but then I would catch up eventually. And there are still a few bits that I don't remember, like have lost, that has just gone. But I did really enjoy it and I was hooked. I did read it really fast. Considering it's a fantasy as well, I feel like it is quite easy. So if you're looking into getting into fantasy, or you know, you're just starting out, this is definitely a book for that, because the world building wasn't too much and it wasn't like, you know, too difficult to understand. I got into that quite quickly. And the problem I find with fantasy personally myself is the world building and trying to remember everything about it, and you know, stuff like that, because obviously it's not real, so it's quite hard to remember. But I had no problems with this one. It got straight into the story. There was like no messing about, or which is also something else that I really liked as well. So yeah, I would recommend this. The cover as well is absolutely stunning. I love the cover, but I highly recommend this book. I understand why it is going around everywhere, and yeah, go and pick this up if you haven't already. Then I read Wuthering Heights. Now, the problem with this is I rated a 1 star. Do I remember what happened in it? No. I have heard about this for many years, all over the place. I've been meaning to pick it up for ages as well. And then I thought it was like a good book because I was hearing about it. It was like, it's quite a popular one if you are into your classics. Even if you're not, you would have heard of this. But then before I started reading it, I started watching reviews, and then I started seeing like loads of bad reviews about it, and I was like, huh, this is strange. And then I read it and I got it. Like I said, do I remember what this book is about? No, I don't actually remember anything about it. And yeah, I don't know, there's not really much to say about it. But this was the first 1 star of the month, and this is when I was like, oh no. Then I read Keep Her Safe by QB Tyler. I rated this 4 stars, I believe. Yeah, I rated it 4 stars because this took me a little bit of time to get into, but once I got into it, I was in it and I absolutely loved it. Obviously, when I said it took me a bit of time to get into it, it was like probably about 50 pages, but once I got past that 50-page mark and I understood the story of it a bit better, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. I finished it so fast. I did start it a couple of months ago, but then I put it down because I had other books to read, not because I wasn't enjoying it. But then I picked it back up and I read it like that. I couldn't put it down, and I just, honestly, I really enjoyed it and I would highly recommend. And QB Tyler is one of my favourite authors, and I always love her books so much. I don't know, there's just something about them, and whenever I pick it up, I'm just addicted and I can't just put the book down. I always have to at least finish it in 1 or 2 sittings. I don't know, they like I said, are just addictive. So if you're into like taboo romances, fun, easy, you know, don't want to put it down, go for a QB Tyler book. I'm just going to tell you that. Okay, so I've just realised that I've jumped 2 books. I'm in a rush. Okay, so the 2 books that I have just skipped is Shadow and Bone and Sage and Storm. I do have a reading vlog on this series. So Shadow and Bone, I rated 1.5 stars. I understood the basis of the story when it started, and then the more it went on, the more it got boring, the more I didn't understand. I just found it difficult. And it is a YA one, so I don't know what happened. And then I read the second one, obviously, and this one I rated 1 star. I didn't understand it. I found it quite boring. I don't know what it was, if I'm being quite honest with you. I don't think it was the writing style. I'm not sure. It just, this series personally wasn't for me. Then I read Keep Her Safe, and then I read Ruin and Rising. I read this 1 star as well. This series personally just wasn't for me, and honestly I couldn't tell you what it was. I think I'll go into more detail, non-spoilery detail, in my reading vlog that I did. This wasn't for me, and I was quite disappointed because I heard so many good things about it, and then I was like disappointed I didn't like it. Then I read The Lost Sisters, so I rated this 2.5 stars. I absolutely love the Folk of Air trilogy, and I read this because I saw it, and it's like the sisters like side of things, and I did enjoy it, but obviously it was a short novella. You didn't really get much of it, and you can't really rate a novella high, but I did like it. There was a few things that obviously did annoy me at times, or I didn't really like understand. I'm like, why would that go through her head, if that makes sense? But it was fun to get the backstory of like the sister side of things and what she thought and what was going through her head and why she did the things that she did sometimes. Then I read Open Water. I rated this 2 stars. I don't know what it was. I don't actually remember the basis of the story either. I think I read this at the wrong time, and I think I did pick it up because it was short and I wanted something short and quick, and I honestly I don't remember much about it, but I do remember that there's like a bit of romance in there, and I enjoyed that aspect of it, and that is why I read it, and like the connection between the characters I loved as well. But that's all I remember really. I don't remember the basis of the story, so I did read this at the wrong time. Maybe I'll reread it in the future, but it was good. Then I read Blindside by Candy Steiner. I rated this 4 stars, I believe. Yeah, I rated this 4 stars. I did really enjoy this, and I don't know why, but for the first time in a very long time, I did fancy a college romance, and so then I picked this up remembering that I wanted to read it. It was a college romance, and I'm glad that I did. It definitely helped with like me wanting a college romance, and yeah, I really enjoyed the story. I obviously loved the characters. I felt like the connection between the characters. I also loved the fact that it was like a woman becoming an athlete. I think that was the first one, or it could be the second one, because I did also read the second one, which I rated 3.75 stars. Again, enjoyed this, and yeah, I would highly recommend the series. It was fun. If you fancy a college romance, go for this one. I mean, they're both good, and there are 2 more books in the series, I believe, which I am hoping to read very soon. Then I read Bittersweet Love by QB Tyler. Now, I've read all of QB Tyler's books for now, at the moment. And this one was just a short, fun novella. And again, I liked it. I rated it 3.5 stars. It's part of the... I don't know what series it's called. But the one with, like, Bittersweet Surrender, stuff like that, you know? I think it is The Friend, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think it's The Friend. So, and, like, her romance. But yeah, it was just a fun, quick story. Then I read A Welcome Reunion by Lucinda Berry. This book was crazy. Now, it's a novella. It's not really a book. It is a novella. It's really short. It is just like a follow-up to The Perfect Child. So if you want to know what happened at the end of that, read this. And I'm not going to say much because obviously I don't want to spoil it, but things were crazy, let's just say that. And you will finish this within like 30 to an hour. 30 minutes to an hour. It's so fast, and you get answers. Let's just say that you get answers. Then I read Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. Again, 1 star. I'm not going to go into too much of this because I go into full detail in a vlog. Then after that, I read Her Billionaire's Best Friend. Again, I rated this 1 star. It was a short like novella thing that I just listened to on audio, and it just wasn't my thing, if I'm being completely honest. Now, as you can see, this is where it goes downhill. I've never had so many 1 stars ever. And talking about 1 stars, I then read A Crooked Kingdom. Again, 1 star. I didn't like it. I'm not again going to go into detail because there's a full reading vlog that I just explain everything in. But just personally, it wasn't for me. And again, I'm sad because Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom especially, I've heard so many brilliant things about, and then I read it, I was like, oh. But I think, like I explained in the reading vlog, I read these at the wrong time. I read them because I was doing the reading vlog, not because I wanted to, and because they've been on my physical TBR for so long, and I just wanted them off. So I will try Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom again in the future. I don't know when, but in the future I will try them again because I don't feel like I gave them a fair chance, and I really, really want to like these. After that, I read Redeemed by Lauren Asher. I rated this 4 stars. I'm so sad that I have completed the series, but I'm also so glad because I love the series, and obviously this was the one that I heard everyone say was the best, and I have got to agree. This is my favourite. This is the best. I feel like you get more character emotion, if that makes sense, and like more of a connection and more growth. Like you actually see them growing. Like they don't just get like into like relationship or into things straight away. It does take time. It is more of a slow burn, but I feel like it was needed for this kind of book, and I feel like it was done perfectly. I absolutely love this, and I did read it really fast as well. So this is about Chloe and Santiago. Santiago's an F1 racer. Obviously he's really famous. Then Chloe comes and she's looking for her father, and her father lives next door to Santiago, but Santiago finds her in his garden and wonders who she is, but then eventually they end up having to fake date and all that good stuff. And I love a fake dating trope, but they both have their traumas, they both have their struggles, especially Santiago. But that is all I'm going to say about it. I highly recommend this book, but the whole series, but mainly this book, because like I said, this is definitely the best. I could definitely agree with everyone on that one. And then I read The Witch's Blood of Elves. I rated this 1 star. I do go into detail in a reading vlog with this, but that reading vlog isn't out yet, but hopefully it will be soon. I'm hoping as I'm filming this, maybe tomorrow, but I don't know. No, as you're seeing this tomorrow, but I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it will hopefully be sometime this week. But I do go into more detail about it, but I'm just going to leave it at that now. And then finally, I read How to Fake in Hollywood by Ava Wilder. So I rated this 3 stars. Again, I'm not going to go too much into detail because this will be in the same exact vlog as The Witcher Blood of Elves. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now. But like I said, you will hopefully see that vlog sometime this week. I'm hoping I just seen this tomorrow. So Wednesday? No, Tuesday? I don't know. So those are all the books that I read in September. I believe there's 23, if I counted correctly. And it's not the most I've ever read in a month. And I was disappointed at first when I counted 17, but I caught up quite a bit near the end. But I am happy with what I read. And like I always say, it doesn't matter how much you read in a month, as long as you are enjoying the books you are reading, whether you read 1 or 20 or 30 or whatever you read in a month, it doesn't matter, as long as you're enjoying what you're reading. I'm just going to say. So anyway, that is all of the books I read in September. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Bye!